So I'm a server at a Chili's, and right now I'm really just working there till I can get day trading figured out. And I'm pretty confident that I'm pretty close, but I still have just a little bit more experience that I really need to kind of really just figure out with my strategy. But one of the things that I've realized is for me to be truly profitable long term, I really shouldn't be trading every single day. It should really be like 1 to 2 times a week instead of multiple times a day. And it's left me with a lot of free time. And in that free time, I've tried playing a lot more games. And it really just hasn't felt the same. Because 10 years ago, I could have hopped on Black Ops 2 and played that all day. Literally all day. Even older Minecraft, I could have played that all day. That same level of fun. And AAA is just a sinking business model. I think their philosophy is all wrong. And I think they just really don't even understand what value truly is. And I don't think a lot of people do, because this is something that I was thinking about. A lot of times, you'll hear people say like, yeah, that's valuable. Like, hey, you should keep that. That's valuable. But like, we don't ever explain why it's valuable. You know what I mean? Like, if I was to think of a Ferrari, I could be like, yeah, a Ferrari's valuable because of the brand, because, how expensive the car is, because, how nice it looks. And like, that's why you would say that's valuable. But when it comes to, a game or something, we don't really think of it in the same philosophy. And I really want to kind of compare this to the 2 games that I've played in the past 6 months. And I want to compare it to Call of Duty just to kind of show how it compares. Because I think Call of Duty is the perfect game company that really shows how bad AAA has become and how it's going to continue to get worse. But, I played Lethal Company last week. And if you've never played Lethal Company, to kind of give you an idea, it's a very low budget horror game. The guy that created it made Roblox horror games. Is a single developer. The graphics kind of suck. Honestly, it kind of looks like a Roblox game. The game is really good, and it's only $10. It knows what it is, and it knows what it isn't. It's not a $60 game that you're going to get this crazy amount of value of. But, it's one of those games where you're paying $10 for it, but you could easily get $60 worth of value out of it. And I think his design philosophy was much different when he created that compared to how a lot of Call of Duties are made. Because Zeekerss made Lethal Company, and I really do think his philosophy was, like, I really can't charge $30 for this game. It's not $30 worthy, but I could charge $10 and put as much value as humanly possible into it. And, there's a reason that he's made over $1 million in that game. And I guarantee you, he didn't even put 5% into making it, Whereas a game like Call of Duty, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in a single game, and the sales are lower every single year. And, they're just not getting that same ROI that a game like Lethal Company or a lot of these smaller indie titles are able to really put out. And, if you just look at the numbers alone, it's clear that AAA just isn't sustainable long term. And it's going down a path that I really do not think can really hold itself together. But, you know what I mean? Like, Lethal Company is just, there's so much value in the game. There really is. And it's like, it knows that it can't be a $60 game. It knows it can't be a $30 game. It knew it couldn't be a $20 game, but it knew it could be 10. And it just, they just tried to put as much value as humanly possible. But you take a game like Call of Duty, and it's like the design philosophy is completely backwards. It knows it's a $20, $30 game, and it's trying to charge $60. And that's the base game. If you get the Vault Edition, it's like 80 to 100. And then they wonder why people hate the game. It's like, okay, they're spending this much money, and then they're getting 20% of the value they thought they would. Like, yeah, you're going to turn people off. So really what Call of Duty has is kind of an OnlyFans business model, which I think is the funniest part. OnlyFans really has one of the worst business models in the world. And it's because it has a really high churn rate. And for people that don't know what that means, basically, you're having to always get new people. That's why, when you see these OnlyFans videos, like, they have to do crazy stuff. They have, like, the Spider-Man video with, like, Sophie Rayner or whatever. And then, they have stuff like, you see these crazy titles where it's like, dude bangs mom and daughter and gets them both pregnant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they have these, like, insane stuff because they have to. Because they always have to get new people in. And they can't really rely on getting the same concurring people. Don't get me wrong, you're going to have those people that always come back, but it's not going to be the majority of your sales. And, I'll sit here and say that, and there's going to be people that are like, Call of Duty doesn't have that, bro. Like, what are you talking about? But it's like, dude, like, what do you think nostalgia baiting is? Like when, you see the new Zombies map and you see parts of Transit in it. I'm not really a big multiplayer guy. I used to be, but honestly, the skill-based matchmaking has just really just completely ruined it for me. But, I'm a big Zombies guy. And, it's like every year there was just always something that pulled me back until I finally just looked at it for what it was. And I was like, okay, Transit's returning this year. Yeah, we got Noctur Toten and D Machine. Like, oh, now the Gobblegums are coming back? Okay, interesting. It's like, it's always just a part of nostalgia baiting from like the good era. And it's really just a failing business model because you're going to get to a point where you can only reuse so much. And I feel like Activision's kind of been cornered a little bit. And, honestly, part of me, actually, that's a lie. I was about to say part of me doesn't even blame them, but I really do because they've put themselves in this awful situation. And let me kind of explain the two routes forward from here. And either one of them is pretty much a death to the company. Because I don't think a lot of people really think about this. They're just like, oh, fix your games. Remove skill-based matchmaking. Do all this stuff. But they don't really ever consider like what it would actually take to fix the game. Holy cow, that was a crazy stutter. Sound like a sped kid. But there's really only two options, and both involve kind of cucking yourself for the investors. Honestly, the whole thing is just like, I don't even see how I could be a CEO of a AAA company. Like, I would just feel like a cuck because like everything you do revolves around your investors. If they're not happy, you're not happy. You're not making money. Option A, they lower the cost of their games. I would never spend $60 on a Call of Duty game, but $10, $20, $30, I'm kind of willing to gamble for that. I feel like if I played it enough, I could just get $30 worth of value out of it. If the game wasn't completely horrible. And they've kind of almost done this route, I feel like, with Game Pass because it's technically free, I guess, if you buy Game Pass. So I guess they've kind of already done that, but like Call of Duty still sucks as a game, so your opinion of the game isn't very high, you know what I mean? So it just, that route isn't really working. And the other sensible route, in my opinion, is just taking longer to develop the game. And I really think that's the option that makes the most sense. But even then, your investors are going to be mad because, if you're putting out a game, every single year, and then, you kind of put that on halt and you're like, okay, now it's going to be once every 2 to 3 years. It's like, whoa, okay, we're losing at least half our money here. Like, yeah, you're going to be kind of mad. And then you could say, okay, well, maybe hire more people so you can get, the games out sooner with better quality. And then it's like, okay, well, you're still eating away at profit. So either way, it's still an L. Not for the game, but for the investors. And like, you have to understand that's all that matters. But at the end of the day, I really do think that playtime is the most important metric because I can't really apply this value logic consistently. Because if I take a game like Arc Raiders, I think for me to really get value out of a more expensive game, like anywhere from $30 to $60, I think playing it for 3 to 6 months makes the most sense. For me to feel like I didn't get completely scammed, that's kind of where my head's at. And it's not even like $30 to $60 is a lot, but it kind of is because, we're really living in an economy right now where, that's the difference between getting, better groceries for the family or even for yourself, to be honest, and getting a game. So, that really kind of is make or break. But, I used to play Arc Raiders a lot when it first came out. And, I really haven't touched the game in a while. And it's not even really because it's a bad game, but it's because I played it so much when it came out. And I think partially that's really what inspired this video because I thought about this probably 3 months ago, whenever Arc Raiders came out. I can't remember. Or that's probably when I started playing it. I really, honestly, I don't know. But, I had this thought in my head where I was like, it almost suffers from its success, really, because I don't want to play anything else because everything else sucks. And this game is really good. So I just want to play Arc Raiders. And that left me feeling really burnt out of it. And then now I just want to take a break from it. I'm reinstalling it right now because the new map that came out looks really cool. And apparently there's like new guns and stuff. And like, I have to try that out. It looks awesome. That and, watching the Burnt Peanut play it is just like literally hilarious. Like that is the only streamer that I've ever watched that I'm like, yes, I don't feel like a chud watching. But like Arc Raiders in a lot of ways for me has suffered from its success because I didn't want to play anything else. I just wanted to play that. And then I consumed all the content immediately. And I kind of think when you have a bunch of good games that are out, it creates this really healthy ecosystem, right? Because 10 years ago, in the Black Ops 2 era, there were several other games that I could have played. Like, yeah, Black Ops 2 is awesome, and that's all I wanted to play. Now that I say that, Black Ops 2 is probably way over 10 years ago. I don't know. I don't really want to do the math. I just woke up. But, you really had several other games to play. And nowadays, you just don't. You know what I mean? If I got bored of Black Ops 2, I could have hopped on any other game. And then, really just kind of created this healthy rotation where I could kind of play all those games for the next 2 to 3 years and be completely cool with it. And I think that's really where a lot of games are nowadays. I think that's why games blow up so quickly on TikTok, YouTube, all the stuff, because it's so rare that we genuinely get good games. And when we do, it's so refreshing. It's so refreshing, because we don't get any good games anymore. Like a game like a game like Arc Raiders. I was going to say Embark, but I said Arc instead. No, but a studio like Embark really deserves all the praise that it had because, they really did put out something that was really good. And I think we really need to start rewarding these smaller studios that put out good stuff and, really show them our support, spend money in the game, and, just buy the game in general because, they deserve it. And a lot of us really like playing games, but we just don't have fun doing them anymore. And, I think a lot of people have said that, it's like, oh, it's just nostalgia. And the longer that I play good games, I'm like, it's not. It's so easy to tell right off the bat if a game's good or bad. The problem is 90% of the games that have been put out are just mediocre. But the second you play that good game, it feels awesome because it's genuinely a good game. It's not nostalgia. It's just genuinely a good game. And we don't have that anymore.